Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
Welcome back to Today with Tally podcast, where we have real life value to the lives of everyday people. We are on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Anchor FM, Spotify, and About Face Radio. Simply search Today with Tally and be sure to like, share, and subscribe to get every episode and stay up to date with the latest and greatest our guests in this show have to offer. Folks, today we celebrate day 161 of this brand new podcast. In our 106th episode, that's right, 106 episodes in 161 days. Folks, are you a business owner? Because if so, I'm talking directly to you right now. Or perhaps you may even be an author. If you have gear, if you have merchandise, if you have books, if you have business services, if you have an event coming up that you want to get the word out about, contact me today at thetallybill@gmail.com. That's thetallybill@gmail.com. Let's put a business plan together. Let's put a marketing plan together and develop a strategy to take your business to the next level and advertise your business right here on this podcast. Again, reach out to me today, thetallybill@gmail.com, or send me a private message. I'm very accessible and I'm ready to sit down with you, earn your business, and get your business again right here on this podcast. Now, folks, I want to tell you about a company that I've recently come across, as well as a show sponsor, Hair XT. Are you tired of hair loss and thinning hair? Look no further, because Hair XT has got you covered. Since 2011, we've been providing all natural hair growth solutions that are guaranteed to give you the results you want. Hair XT's powerful hair growth vitamins and topical serum use a unique 3-tier approach to regrow your hair, protect the hair you have, and prevent future hair loss. Their specially formulated vitamins contain essential ingredients for growing and repairing hair, while the serum promotes blood flow to the scalp and creates an optimal environment for hair growth. Plus, the all-natural, drug-free formula has no side effects, so you can trust that it's safe. Don't wait any longer to get that thick hair you deserve. Try Hair XT today and see the difference for yourself. And remember, Hair XT products come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Try Hair XT now. Visit them online today at hairxt.com. That's hairxt.com. And enter promo code TALLY15 at checkout for 15% off. Now, folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. Eric Ridgely, also known as author John Henley, is a U.S. Navy veteran, a former member of the CIA, and a best-selling author. And with that, we are honored to be joined by Eric, a.k.a. John. How are you, sir?
I am well. Thank you very much for having me on.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine, man. The pleasure is all mine. I know you're doing some big things in the military and the veteran community. You've got a tremendous resume, and now you're putting out awesome books, Alpha, Bravo, and now today you have a new release in the book Charlie.
Yep.
Man, what has inspired you to put all these books out?
One of my best friends. We moved back to Oregon about 6 years ago, 6 years ago, and grew up with this woman who I walked down the graduation aisle with at high school and stayed friends through all the years. And one day she said, I'm just going to write a book. Timing isn't everything. And she just happened to do that just as e-readers came out, and coincided with her becoming an international bestseller all over the world. It was crazy for her. And that was 12 years ago, I think, 10, 12 years ago. And when we moved back, she started hearing some of my crazy stories of my times overseas and said, maybe we can collaborate on some of this. All right, I never thought about writing books before, and we wrote one, and then all of a sudden it was 5. And now I'm at 13, I think, today, in just over 2 years. So it's going.
Incredible. Now, you have spent some time in the U.S. Navy. Do you have any moments or memories of the U.S. Navy that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, sure. I joined the Navy right out of high school. Didn't really have much direction in my life other than get out of a small town. That was it. And I scored pretty well on my ASVAB, and I knew how to work a computer at that time. It was early 90s. And they said, well, you can get more money if you go on submarines. And being the naive young 17-year-old that I was, I heard more money. And yeah, sign me up. Didn't think of anything else. Go out to Groton, Connecticut for submarine school. And it was, I did basic in Great Lakes, middle of summer.
Mm-hmm.
Go down to Mississippi, end of summer, fall. Okay, I grew up in Oregon where there's no humidity, and it stays about 60 degrees all year long. It may hit 75 during the summer. It was 100 every single day with 98% humidity, and I was a rail thin kid to begin with, and then I became even thinner. I was sweat everything out. But we were in our whites in Mississippi in October, and they send us up to Connecticut for submarine school. I'm in my whites, everybody else is in their blues, and they lost my bag. And all I had for 3 days were those same whites over and over again. I think it was low 40s every day I was there. So the only time in my life that I got to jump ahead in any line in the military was in Groton, Connecticut, so I could eat food before everybody else because it was 40 degrees outside and I was in whites. So submarines, as anybody in the military, is you find your best friends in the world there, and you stay friends for your entire life. And that, out of everything, out of all the missions that we did, all the different cool places we went to, it's those men that I'm still friends with that I appreciate out of all of it.
Right. Yeah. The camaraderie is real, in the military. I can understand being underwater in a submarine. I mean, that's all you got, is your crew down there. And I can totally get that, man. Now, you had mentioned you did well on the ASVAB. That's probably why you're in submarines. I was an ASVAB waiver, so I joined the Marine Corps. You know what I mean?
We got jokes all day for that.
Yeah, totally. So, I think I only know one other guy that's ever been in submarines and was actually stationed in a submarine. What's life like underwater for such a long period of time?
Well, I was on a boomer, and so I don't know if your other contact was a boomer or fast attack, but the boomers, I like to tell people they're 4 stories high and 2 football fields long. And
wait. Say that again?
4 stories high and 2 football fields long.
A submarine that big?
Yep.
Holy smokes.
Yep. Now, you don't get every inch of that space to walk around in, but they're huge. And after your first tour and your body's acclimated to what this is like, you're just in an office building all day and all night and all day and all night. But there's enough space that you don't feel claustrophobic unless you're being hazed by being put down the torpedo tubes or something like that.
So how long are you on these submarines before you come up?
Yeah, boomers. My longest tour ever was 98 days. So, and I think the longest underwater, I want to say, was 4-ish weeks. But even in that, we come up, we have communications, we do some periscope, and I don't know. I was always driving. I was helmsman plainsman, which means I'm always right there in the command center. So even if we came up for periscope, a lot of times I got to go look out. So unlike a lot of the guys that never saw any light of day, nothing, I was a little bit spoiled in that regard. And let me tell you, the first few tours that you do, you are working and qualifying, and that's it. Your sleep is almost zero, and you better get your stuff together, because until you do, you don't get to sit and watch movies. You don't get to hang out and play cards or dominoes or anything like that. You are just, if you get caught doing any of that stuff, you're slacking. The guys, just like in any military branch, if you're not qualified, the guys are going to start hammering you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so when you're down for so long, and then you come up and you're able to, have some liberty or whatever it may be, what does it feel like? What type of pressure does being on a submarine put on your body?
At that time in my life, I worked out nonstop. I mean, it was, if I wasn't, once I got qualified, I want to make sure that I don't, all these submarine guys are going to be yelling, "You didn't work out when you were qualifying." That's right. You were studying nonstop and getting interviews with all the guys, et cetera. But once you're done with that, it's pretty relaxed in the sense of, you know what you're doing, just do your job. That's it. Do your job. But there were guys that worked out nonstop, and that helps your brain just stay engaged and you're able to sleep, right? I think working out for all of us is one of the trifecta of keeping a sane life. So that, I don't know. It wasn't anything unusual after the first few tours for me to be undersea or underwater for so long. Now,
how deep do you guys cruise at?
Oh, that's classified information, Brian.
Oh, is it?
There's depends on the mission.
Yeah.
Depends on what's going on. Yeah. I mean, it's that huge piece of metal can only take so much pressure, right?
Right.
And so you can only go so deep, but they go deeper than you'd want to be if it cracked.
They go pretty quick too.
Yeah.
They move.
The most fun I ever had, though, is when we do these emergency blows. You're under 160 feet underwater, 200 feet underwater, whatever it is, and you hit those levers that just press all the air, and you go. It feels like you're on a trampoline, and you have this multi-billion-dollar machine just floating in the air for a second, and then crashing back down into the water. I don't know how responsible that is, but it's a lot of fun.
I mean, is there a better branch of service out there than the U.S. Navy? Of course, the Marine Corps is a department of the U.S. Navy.
That's right.
We've got it all. I mean, we've got from tracks to ground troops to every helicopter, all the helos you could think of, artillery. We got all the big guns. We've got the cannons. We got the grenade launchers, and we haven't even gotten to the aircraft carriers yet.
And we haven't got a guy.
It doesn't get any better.
No. The last contract that I had before I became a civilian, I worked with a bunch of Air Force guys, and they do like to pat themselves on the back a lot, but they're sitting in chairs in an office.
The chair force?
The chair force. Right. And I say that to them still to this day. I tell you what, there's everybody that's in the military or has been in the military, we all know that we can make fun of each other, but if the civilian did it, there'd be words said. The respect we have for each other, we get to have this banter, but if you've never been in, you don't get to say stuff like that to each other.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, right now, as we sit here in the United States of America, less than 1% of our population is serving our country. So it is a very small gun club, if you will. And that camaraderie is real. And, we understand each other. But, a lot of others don't quite understand us and our dark humor and our silliness and, the shenanigans you want to call it. But it is what
There's plenty of them.
Say again?
So there's plenty of them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you get out of the U.S. Navy. Well, where does life take you after that?
Yeah. One of my best friends from the Navy, he grew up in Pennsylvania, and he said, "Hey, come to the East Coast." I was a West Coast boy. And when I joined the military, I said, I want to go see the world, not knowing anything else of the military other than the military is everywhere in the world. That's what I knew. I got stationed in Seattle, Washington. was about a 6-hour drive from home, 7-hour drive from home. And I said, come on, this isn't what I expected. But I learned when I was in Connecticut, well, I thought that I learned in my youthful inexperience of life that I didn't want anything to do with the East Coast. Mm-hmm. So I got out. I said, I'm going to go help my young sister who had a baby and had her own stress and everything. So as a prudent big brother, I decided to help her more than focus on myself. And my buddy kept on saying, hey, move to the East Coast, move to Philadelphia with me. I said, you're out of your mind. Well, about a year and a half later, I moved to Philadelphia. And that's how my journey into East Coast life for the next 20 years started. So I lived in Philadelphia for only a year and a half, and started dating a girl that drove me down to DC. And we did that long distance, which is long distance, 2-hour drive, 2.5-hour drive, something like that. Decided, hey, let's move close to each other. And I said, I'll move down to DC. A couple months later, we broke up, of course. I think I was 24 at the time, 23, 24. A few years of working the private sector. I still traveled quite a bit for that job. And then somebody introduced me into the CIA. I applied for that. And about a year from there, I was brought in as a CIA officer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Even more so than the military, probably the greatest experience of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I joined I'd say 6 months before Benghazi happened. And just where I was at within the agency, I was directly involved with supporting that function. And it helped give me a trajectory into what I wanted to do for the rest of my time with the agency without question. Yeah.
What did that look like?
I remember I came in the morning after Benghazi, and I purposely don't listen to the news in DC because 99.9% of it was the same thing over and over again, which is I'm not big on having people just negativity in my head nonstop. And so I don't listen to the news. I mean, I'll read it at times, but I don't listen to it anymore. And I learned that in DC pretty quickly. So when I walked in to the office, I said, there's way more people here than there should be. What is going on? Learned instantly what had happened. And I spent that week, I think I worked 100 and some hours. I was there very early in the morning till very late at night supporting that. And, I'd met Tyrone Woods before that, and he was an Oregon boy, so we had that connection, and he was one of the ones that, as we know, passed away out there. And in learning that, it was an eye-opening experience that the job we're doing is much bigger than just pushing paperwork around in DC. And like I said, that trajectory absolutely pushed me in a different way than I ever thought that I'd be going.
So safe to say that you were a personal friend of Ty.
Well, we were friends in the way that you and I are friends, and that we are joking about similarities and differences. He was, like I said, he was Oregon boy. And as soon as I found that out, we started joking about where in Oregon's better. And he told me he was a wrestler, and I started making fun of wrestlers because I was a football, basketball, soccer guy, which now that I've got kids in school that wrestle, I shut my mouth out about wrestlers. A story with that is my nephew went to state championships for wrestling. My first moment in that world up in Portland, they were having the opening ceremonies. And as they were saying, hey, thank you for coming, everybody stand up and have the national anthem, etc. And they said, one of our sponsors, we want to have remembrance of Tyrone. And I don't recall if it was his family that put a scholarship up. This was, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't recall. But it caught me so off guard that I admit that I just started crying. It was all those memories of him and Benghazi and all that stuff just hit me like a sledgehammer that you don't see coming at all. You see it coming, you can kind of bob and weave, right? But that was an emotional moment of how all of this impacts us just even years down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hits you like a ton of bricks. And, I've had folks on this program like John Tigan, who was there, who held down that annex for 13 hours until reinforcements were called in. I've had Sarah Adams on this show, who's just released a new book on Benghazi, who was also in the CIA. And, I do know that there's still information coming out to this day on what happened during that horrendous firefight and that, that extremist takeover of, not only the State Department there, the CIA annex, but also the, was it like the embassy as well?
Yeah, with Ambassador Stevens and the group there. And I have to say, when they put out that movie, I watched it one time. And, as a kid, I remember seeing these, and we still see them, but as a kid, seeing these Vietnam veterans that had lost a leg or were having difficulties in the community, whatever it may be, and just not having life experience and understanding, why aren't you just getting it together? Now I get it. You can only watch something once. And I want to be very clear, I was not there. So I don't want to say that I don't want that to be misconstrued at all. Was not on the ground there at all. But having friends and having peers and coming back from that and helping those in the manners that I did, it's a stress that you'll carry forever. So I watched that movie one time and I said, nope, I don't need to have that in my brain. Just don't need to.
Can you share with us any information, or not information, but where did the CIA take you? Did you do any missions overseas that you could talk about?
I did some sports stuff. It was more the CIA allowed me to go into new avenues. I started doing contract work. It took me into the middle of the deserts of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, where we just had the World Cup. I was there for months on end. I spent 13 months in Afghanistan. Went through the northern African countries, then even to the jungles of Sri Lanka. The CIA opened up a door for me that, like I said, the trajectory of me wanting, instead of being a support person there in DC, to be more active and engaged around the world in supporting the people that are doing work. I'd rather be shoulder to shoulder with somebody that's going through it instead of on a phone call or a text message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you would end up, you join the Navy, you're in the submarines, you're experiencing what only a handful of people really experience in their lifetime. I mean, being on a submarine, that's pretty high, that's high speed right there. And then you join the CIA for several years, and then you get out and, you're a husband, you're a proud father of 4 girls, you reside in Oregon, and now you are an author. And it almost seems as if the life that you lived prior to you engaging as an author has really helped you in putting together these books. Now, you are a fictional writer, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Now, I'd say that if it wasn't for we all work off of our experiences in life. We can have our imagination, but if you're not able to write what you know, it becomes difficult to write. And all the characters that I create are people that I've been engaged with at some point in my life.
Now, I have a book that you sent me on Veterans Day.
Yep.
It's called Alpha. Okay. And you also sent me a challenge coin, and it was amazing. I think we were connected by a Facebook friend. It could be Jeff Hayden, actually, now that I think about it. I think he's a big fan of yours. I think he's read all your books. But you have this, I'm not sure if you'd call it a series, but you would call it titles. Now, the first one you did is Alpha in this new group that you're doing. And you said that you're going to go through the full alphabet. So now you've got Alpha, you have Bravo out, and now today just happens to be your new book release of Charlie.
Yeah.
Explain what made your gears all go in motion to create, hey, I want to do the whole entire alphabet: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, and so on and so forth.
When I moved back to Oregon in 2018, I met up with Melody Ann, who's my friend that is best-selling, multi-international blog, millions of books sold. When we started writing she's a romance author. Mm-hmm. She said, I want to challenge myself to do something different. And so we started storyboarding come up, and I said, well, why don't you bring some real badass dudes into your stories instead of he's a business guy, he's got millions, billions of dollars, but okay, how about get some dudes that actually have seen some crap and come through it and still treat their women okay? Mm-hmm. So that series, there's 5 books. I said, you know what? If I can write half of 5 books, so 2.5 books worth of stuff, I can write my own books. And then I said, what is most important to me in sharing stories? And it's uplifting our military service, both present and past, to include, and I don't want to put them in a box by themselves, but to include our first responders. Mm-hmm. So that has been my focus. And I said, what would be a neat way to go about connecting all of these? And I don't know where it came from, if it was just taking a nap in the afternoon, I don't know, but all of a sudden the military alphabet just hit me. So I started going with those. Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie are a singular story through 3 books. Going forward, I don't know if each book is going to be a singular story, if I'll continue a series. So Delta, Echo, Foxtrot be another series, and so on and so forth. Or if it's just going to be Delta will be a standalone, Echo will be a standalone, Fox, you understand what I'm saying.
What got into your head to say, I want to become an author? I mean, there's not too many authors out there there are a lot of authors, but there's a lot of authors who aren't very successful at it because there's so many books out there. There's so many people that have so many ideas, but yet you have found this niche. And what got into you? Like, how did those gears begin to move in motion to say, I'm onto something here, and this is what my plan is, and I'm going to put it in motion? What did that look like when you sat down and you started writing these books? Was it like a moment to where you wrote a book and you ended up selling a ton of them that put you on this path? Or was it something that you kind of had to work at to continuously get better until now where you're at? You've had close to or over 35 million pages read, and that was when Alpha came out, so you have a lot of followers out there.
I want to come back to giving credit to my friend Melody. Mm-hmm. When we were writing together, I just had this anticipation of, it's easy because I'm a co-author with this, and because of her success, I just was writing the coattail of it. And I thought, we're just going to keep on writing these books together. And she said, you need to go do this yourself if you're going to do this. Mm-hmm. Said, there was a bit of, no, I'm jumping off this bridge by myself now. Then I said, well, I've done a lot of things by myself through my life, and it's turned out okay. Absolute credit to my wife, who is by far the most patient and wonderful human being I've ever been in contact with. Mm-hmm. And the highs and lows of writing, for those who've never done it, are extreme. You are on cloud nine, and then you fall through that, and you're down to the deepest depths, and then you're back up all in the same day. It's just
explain that.
Well, there are people, Stephen King, he speaks of, he will just start writing, and as the ideas come, he just keeps on writing it. And it's not a blocked out, finite process for him. He just goes. Been very successful, right? And we all know who Stephen King is. John Grisham talks about how he writes down his outline, goes through it, makes edits and things, and he's much more linear in his thoughts. When I first started writing with Melody, we would bounce ideas back off of each other, but we weren't creating this step by step by step by step. When I started doing it by myself, I said, that's not working for me, because I would start going, have these ideas, write them down. Now, I don't have anybody to bounce them off of. Now I can talk to friends and family, but it was, when you're doing it, you're on your own. Mm-hmm. And then I'd have to go rewrite chapters. And that, for me, for other people, it works just fine. For me, it just doesn't. I'm too organized of an individual to be that free. So I learned I have to write out each chapter, narrative of some kind for each chapter, look at that, see if it flows. If it doesn't, then I just erase 2 or 3 lines versus an entire chapter. So the highs and lows, that's what I'm talking about. The highs and lows of those come very, very quickly if I'm not organized.
How long does it take to write a book?
Melody and I have written a book in less than a month. Mm-hmm. I, by myself, have taken 3-4 months. Now I've got a family, right? I've got kids that are active in sports and the things that come with that. Behind me, my wife just started her own medical clinic. So this is all her stuff. And I've been helping create processes and procedures for her in that realm. So it takes away from writing. So some days I can get 3 or 4 hours in. Other days I get 13 or 14 hours in. If I sat down, had my outline done, I would write a book in probably 3 to 4 weeks. Now that doesn't happen, but it could.
What is the perfect setting for you? Now, we've seen movies where people go away and they go to the mountains of Oregon, and they've got that stream, and they've got this beautiful setting, and they're looking out this window, and it's peaceful, and that's where they sit and they write. What is that setting for author John Henley to come up with this creativity and this imagination to put out the types of books that you put out?
The scene you just created is perfect for hunting and fishing. Mm-hmm. That's not perfect for writing for me. Mm-hmm. The perfect situation and scenario for me is wherever my mind is at the moment. Like I said, once I have the outline done, I just sit down and write. Most of the times the TV's on. There's some Jack Cars playing in the background. Terminal List is playing in the background. I remember once there was I think it was Nat Geo, maybe. I don't recall who it was, but they were going through the history of snipers and just things that I don't have to watch because I've heard it so many times that it's just noise in the background. As long as I'm not getting interrupted constantly with phone calls or kids coming in asking for homework help, which they are beyond my scope now. I don't know how to help them with their math anymore. I'm pretty good to just go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hunt. If you can find me in the fall, impressive, because I'm gone from home, but my laptop's with me and I'll be out all day hunting, come back, write for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just because it's there. Yeah.
Do you find that you need to be in a certain frame of mind to be able to write, or are you just so so used to it now that you wake up and you write and it becomes second nature?
Yeah, I think as with anything that we do, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, right? That iron sharpens iron type of deal. And 13 books in, and I'm not saying I don't enjoy it or it's not blasé at all, but it becomes, I know what I have to do, and this is it. It's not a difficulty anymore.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you put out these books and you sit down and you come up with all these characters and all this, and you start to build it and you start to generate this, do you ever go back at times and say, man, I'm not sure if I want to do that. I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm going to change this up. Or do you trust yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to start here and I'm going to finish here. And what I thought here was to be right. I'm going to keep this and I'm going to roll with it. I mean, like, because to me, it's like, I get these moments at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh shit, that's a great idea. And I always have a pad of paper next to my nightstand. And at 2 a.m., I'm like, okay, I'm trying to write something down. Do you ever have that? Or do you ever go back to something and say, you know what, I want to say it this way? Explain that.
Yes to both of those. Especially early on, I was very unsure. Especially, I was working with somebody that has sold millions of books and has an absolute insane following of fans. And so stepping your toe into a water of like that, when you've never done it before, there was a lot of insecurities of, am I bringing enough to this to be valuable?
Mm-hmm.
The further along with Charlie, I just go. Once I write down, I say, if there's something new that comes to my mind that could have worked better, I save it for another book. Because with a fiction, you create your characters, and if there's aptitudes of that character that you really like or dislike, your next character can either not have them or have them.
So I picture this: you're sitting at your desk, and you have all these little G.I. Joe guys. You're just naming them. You're like, okay, here's the Alpha crew. Here's the Bravo crew. Here's the Charlie crew. And it's just, I can totally just, picture something like that right there. But is it safe to say that this Melody Ann is a mentor of yours in this industry and on this walk on life you are on right now in being a best-selling author?
Well, I want to say she's probably going to watch this, and I will never admit that she's a mentor of mine. So remember that, Melody. You're not my mentor. One of my best friends, sure. We joke around all the time. She has been incredible for me, absolutely. When I think that I've got a great idea and she shows me why it's not a great idea, or I say, what about this? And she says, absolutely. What a mentor should be, right? It's giving you the criticisms and the accolades that you need to be able to take the next step forward and trust that process. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've got one of those guys too. I bounce stuff off all the time because in this life we do have those people in our lives where we value their opinion, and really everybody has a handful of those people. And it seems as if Melody is one of those folks in your corner that you value her opinion and what she thinks has a big influence on you and the direction that you go in your books. And I think that's a very healthy way to write, especially coming from somebody who's, been so successful, in that industry. Now, give our listeners an elevator pitch on who author John Henley is and the type of style of writing that you do.
Whoa. That's the first time anybody's asked me that one. The elevator pitch is that I am a author that dabbles in so many different genres that you're going to be able to read no matter what you like right now. If you go onto my website, you will find there's romance that I've worked in, there's fantasy that I've worked in, there's military thrillers that I've worked in. So, and I've got two different guys right now that I'm working with. One is a coming of age stories, and one is the teenage post-apocalyptic type of books. So because I read, I'm a just big time reader from as early as I can remember as a kid. The ideas are there. And then with all the different experiences I've had through my life, that just compounded even more. If you like to read, you will find something that I write that will whet your appetite. Absolutely.
I have read a little bit of this alpha, and it is very good, and I can't wait to finish it. I just need to have some time. I have so many books here I need to read. I get sent so many.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, books, and I can't wait to really dig into this. I mean, this character here on the front cover of this is just it's remarkable, folks. Go out and get Alpha today. And where can you get it? Well, I'll tell you where right now. You go online and you Google author John Henley. It'll bring you right to his website, authorjohnhenley.com. That's authorjohnhenley.com. Go check out his work. Go check out his books. Go check out his bio, a little bit about himself, his family, where he resides. And this guy, again, has a remarkable resume, from being on submarines in the U.S. Navy to being a part of the CIA and serving abroad for so many years, and now being a fictional writer of so many books out there that do add so much value to the folks of lives out there. Like you said, hey, I want to write about the military. I want to write about the veteran community. I want to write it, with the first responders and all that stuff, and you've done a very good job on this. Now, is this something that you like? There's a lot of authors out there, let's face it. And they're like, well, this is my part-time job. My full-time job is I work at this business, and in my part-time, I write and I sell books and I print them, self-publish, and then I ship them all out from my house. Is this a full-time gig for you?
It has been up until my wife has opened up this clinic, and she has a heart and a passion for helping people, which is not matched by anyone I know. She doesn't understand a lot of the business side of things. So I'm going to be stepping into the role of running the business part of it for her, which means in all likelihood, my writing slows down some. It's not going to stop by any stretch of the imagination, but for the last year and a half, 2 years, it's been my full-time job, and it works. It works for what I'm doing. I do want to say, on top of your comment there, that I have found that I enjoy the collaboration and co-authorship with other people a lot more than writing by myself, in the sense of no matter what the story is, being able to work on a team. I was a sports guy, all team sports, military or team, agency or team. Everywhere you go, it's a team. And writing by myself kind of drives me a little batty sometimes, just the isolation that I have to put myself in. So on my website, you'll see there an opportunity. If you have a military or first responder background, I've gotten a few different guys that already submitted stuff, but if you want to tell a story of something that you've worked in, I don't want people that, if you're a police officer and that's all you've ever done, trying to write a story about being a Navy SEAL. I want to work with people that have whatever your background is. Mm-hmm. We can write together. And it's been eye-opening over the last 6 to 8 months how many people will say, not only do I want to do that, I want to write these other books as well. Can you help me do that? Absolutely. Absolutely can and want to. And we talked about, Brian, you and I talked about earlier, that it's great to have some of the financial rewards of this. Mm-hmm. But as you know personally, because I didn't charge a single thing to anybody on Veterans Day. If you want a free book, you're getting it. Absolutely. I would rather spend my time and energy speaking with guys like you and women that do this and working together than doing it by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are indeed a very sincere and genuine man. I mean, you do have a heart of gold. And folks, look, you heard it right here from author John Henley himself. If you're a first responder if you are in the military, if you're a veteran, if you have a lot of life experience and you want to dabble at doing some fictional writing, reach out to him. This guy's available on so many different social media platforms. You name it. He's on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Just Google him. Author John Henley. Reach out. He's a very accessible guy. He's very knowledgeable, and he's willing to sit down with you and perhaps co-author a book with you. And this guy's got a great platform because he's done it. I mean, folks have written, as of when Alpha came out, like I said, he has co-authored, 13 books or authored, and folks have read over by now at least 35 to 40 million pages.
I think as of today, it was around 70 million.
Okay, there you go. 70 million pages. Yeah. So, I mean, this guy definitely knows he's a wordsmith. And I've been using that word a lot lately. Somebody called me a wordsmith the other day, and I was like, wow, I've never had such a great compliment in my life.
Especially for a Marine. Wow.
An ASVAB waiver. But, what you're doing out there is, it's remarkable, it's admirable. And that's why I want to have folks like you on my podcast.
Thank you.
Folks that can add some value, to other people. And really, at the end of the day, I'm thinking, I was like, you know what? We have a big problem going on in our country with military, veteran, and first responder suicide.
Absolutely.
And you don't hear a lot about authors. You really don't. I wonder if somebody's going through some hard times, those might be the best fictional writers, and it may take their mind away from the feelings of grief that they're going through or their anxiety and their depression, and actually put that to work and actually writing something that could offer so much value in a life of imagination. So I could really see this becoming a great outlet for people out there that are going through some tough times.
It was. When we moved to Oregon, I had 20 years where I was a very active part of some very big things. And the town we live in is a small community, few thousand people. And now that I've been here, love the people, love the community. I could not ask for a better place for my kids to grow up. Mm-hmm. When I first got here, my mind went to, what am I doing? It was just so incredibly different than what I've been in my 20 years previously that I had a hard time adjusting, and it took me down a pretty deep and dark hole. And writing absolutely brought me back out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you
hit it on the head. You absolutely did.
Yeah, because you don't hear a lot about it. You hear about people going out and doing adrenaline, sports therapy, underwater, scuba diving, shooting, hunting, fishing, dirt bikes. There's so many programs out there for veterans that they can take part in. And again, collaborate and build that team and have that camaraderie. You have faith-based camps. But really becoming an author, I think we're onto something there. And I think you can find a lot of really great guys out there who may be a little shy, but they need that perhaps outlet to where they can become somebody that they're not through the imagination of the feelings that they may be going through or some sort of life experience that they lived. And as you're writing that down, I can see that being very therapeutic for so many folks out there.
I would encourage anybody that deals with any PTSD or high stress to find a moment to write. And I'm not saying to write to make a book, but at least just to get that down on some paper or on your computer, just to get it out of you. Because if you let your brain start consuming you in that regard, it's unfortunate that we're seeing so many aftermaths of men, and now starting for women, that end up in a terrible spot for the rest of their family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Change your mindset. Change your mindset and put it to work and create a fictional character. I think that's a freaking amazing idea. I think Look, guys, if you're a veteran out there, if you're in the military, if you're a first responder, you've never dabbled in trying to write a book before, and you want to talk about some life experiences and kind of create some different scenes and some different settings through your imagination, reach out to John Henley today. He's looking for perhaps some co-authors. You guys can sit down and put some great ideas together. Who knows? You may become an author because of this podcast. Now, I like to add a little bit of wisdom to this show. And there's a quote that you like to say, where life leads us is unknown. So let's all take some of those steps together. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think we touched on it earlier that doing everything by yourself is going to bear very little fruit. And none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. So why do it alone? And it comes back to what the segment we just talked about with veteran suicide. It comes back to having a life of your family. You're not sure how to carry them through and I'm talking at least for myself as a man, how to lead them, whatever it may be. You need to have some kind of mentorship, and you need to have some kind of leadership, and to hone those skills in whatever segment of your life. If you want to write, and this is what my segment of this podcast is, if you want to write, let's write together, because I didn't know how to start that. And if I can teach even one person to go on and do that, it's a success, right? If we can teach 10, and then the fallout from all of that, it just multiplies and multiplies on itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, you could even take this a step further and do workshops and create even a 501c3 and engage with veterans firsthand. And again, I think this is going to be for the veterans that are more shy, that don't want to come on podcasts, that don't really know how to talk about their feelings on social media. But guess what? They can do it in a book. Because they're not.
You're my very first podcast ever.
Yeah,
first one, and I'm a pretty good conversationalist, but I don't like being in the spotlight per se. And it's not because I'm antisocial or anything, but that's just not how I communicate.
Right.
Outwardly, I would much rather write, and even having the John Henley, that's not my real name. That's a splice of my grandfather's first names. I don't want the accolades. I want to do something that empowers myself and others. And that's where I'm at now. I will do more podcasts, because I understand intellectually the importance of having a voice to continue to prop up the business that I'm trying to create. But it's not my goal in all of this. My goal is to meet men like you, have conversations with people that want to learn how to do something. And all of us working through it together. There's more than enough pie for everybody to eat, right?
Folks, we're being joined by author John Henley. He is going to be going through the full alphabet, A through Z. Alpha is complete. Bravo is complete. And Charlie was released today. Give me an elevator pitch on what we can expect from the book Charlie.
Charlie's the last of the Ian Ridgefield series. We have seen the culmination of Ian getting out of the military, learning of the love of his life, and then being kind of ripped away from that because our own country is being exposed in a way that is unfortunate due to greed and political power hungry individuals. Now, I admit the first couple books were a little light on the action. Charlie is nonstop. Everybody's getting shot at. Things are blowing up. Car chases, helicopter chases, until the very end when our hero is able to walk home knowing that he did the job he did to save his own family and this country.
Folks, you heard it right there. Get the book today, Charlie. It is available right now. You can go online and get it directly from author John Henley. I'm even sure he'll probably sign it for you and get it shipped right out. Go to his website today, authorjohnhenley.com. That's authorjohnhenley.com. Now,
Brian, if you don't mind for a moment,
yeah,
you can buy my books on my website or on Amazon. If you buy them from my website, every single one of them is autographed. I don't charge any extra at all. It's the same price as Amazon, but you're getting autographed. And if you reach out to me directly, I'll personalize it for you as well.
Yeah, and you know what the cool thing is you even have these neat little stickers that say signed copy. There you go. Signed copy, author John Henley, the tip of the spear. I love it, man. You're doing some great things. And I want to thank you for joining us on today's program, Eric Ridgely, a.k.a. author John Henley.
Thank you for having me, Brian. Appreciate it.
We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in the military and veteran community. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to our great nation is truly admirable.
Yours as well, sir, even if it was a Marine.
Hoorah. Where's the way, buddy?
Thanks.
Remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next time, for Today with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.